Okay, we are back with 10.3. So we are just working with prisms and cylinders today. We're not going to be labeling faces, edges, and vertices anymore, but you are going to use those for what we're doing today. So we are going to find the surface area. Remember, area in any figure for anything you're doing is always squared. So if you're given inches as your label for your measurement of edges, your area is always inches squared, okay? Okay, so let's start with a prism. We'll start with a rectangular prism. So if I have a rectangle, and I'm gonna make a prism here, the first thing we wanna learn how to do is called a net. A net means if I were to take this prism and I were to unfold it, what would it look like? So I know my top is going to be a rectangle, the next part is going to be a rectangle, the next part is going to be a rectangle, and I will have two little edges here, or two little faces on the side, okay? So this would be a net of a rectangular prism. I have four that folded up and over, and then I have the two sides that folded in if I were to unravel it, okay? So for those of you Rubik's Cube guys, I know that it's a Rubik's Cube, which means that with the term cube, all six sides are exactly the same. So if you were to unfold it, a Rubik's Cube would be 6 squares, right? Exactly the same size. And you can put the edges there, you could put them up here, you could put them, one could be up at the top and one could be down at the bottom, as long as they're on opposite sides, because once you roll it all together and then you were to fold the sides in, that's what it would look like. So these are called nets, okay? So we'll start with the net of a prism. Now, if I'm trying to find the area of a rectangular prism, there's a couple of different things that I can do. My first formula is the surface area of the prism is going to be 2b plus p times h. Now this capital B, notice it's a capital B, not a lowercase b. The capital B is base area. So the area of the base itself. And the bases for any prism are the two sides that are exactly the same across from each other. So most of your prisms will have rectangles. Like if you had a triangular prism, your bases are triangles, but if I were to draw a net of that, I would have two triangles, and then these sides are still rectangles, okay? So this right here, I'll go ahead and select this and move it over so that we can see that. But if I were to look at this when I'm trying to figure out the area, the base area would be the area of the triangles in this one. For the one over here, it'd be the base of the rectangles. Okay, so rectangular prism versus triangular prism. Prisms will always have rectangles as your sides, but the bases are the two that are exactly the same. So for this formula right here, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll use this again and again. But you have 2 times the base area, because there's 2 bases, plus this P is the perimeter of the base. Okay, the perimeter of the base, and then your H is the height, and your height is always the distance between the 2 bases. Okay, so I'll go ahead and write that, the distance between the 2 bases. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that we can find this out. If I'm working with your rectangle or your triangular prism right here, let's go ahead and do that. Let's say this right here, the height of this is 3. This is 6. 6, we'll make them all inches just to help you out, okay? This is 6, which means that this is also 3. This right here is gonna be the same as this length right here because they match up when they're folded. Okay, so if this is 6, we'll make this 8, which means that all the way across here is 8, okay? So we can do this a couple of different ways. I didn't give a measurement for this. So these two, since these are rectangles, are gonna be the same. Let's make that 2 inches, okay? So if everything is in inches, this is what we're gonna do first. I'll change the color so that we can see what we're doing. I wanna find, if I'm looking at the net, I wanna find the area of each portion of the prism. So in this case, my 2 times 8 is 16. This is also gonna be 2, so 2 times 8 is 16. If this is the same as this, I have 8 times, or 8 is the same distance across because it's a rectangle. I'd go 8 times 16 is 48. So that's the area of this rectangle. Now I need to work it with the area of the triangles. Remember, the area of a triangle is always 1/2 base times height. So if 6 times 3 is 18, one of these triangles is gonna be 9, and this one's gonna be 9, okay? So I'm gonna take the measurements of all of those surfaces, all of those faces, and add them together. So I have 48 plus 16 plus 9 plus 16 plus 9. Okay, so I did 48 plus 16 plus 9 plus 16 plus 9, because that's all of the faces for this triangular prism. Let's go ahead and add it up. I have 18, 32, so 40, 50, 98. So I'd have 98 inches squared, okay? Go ahead and double check me, but I'm pretty positive that's what it is. Okay, so 32 plus 18. Yeah, okay, so 98 inches squared. Let's go ahead and take the same information and we'll use our formula. So if I have the base area is 9, then all I need to do is 2 times the base area. This base is a triangle, so we want to do the area of a triangle. 2 times the base area plus, what's the perimeter of the base? That means the distance around. So if I have 2 plus 6 plus 2, that's 10. And then your height is always the distance between the two bases. Okay, so that right here to here is 8. Okay, so let's double check that. Let's say I have 2 times 9 is 18, plus 10 times 8 is 80. I should get the same answer, which I did. So some of you guys will be able to do this a little bit easier. If you see something, you tend to be a little more visual. So you look at the net and you can do the area for each portion, each face of that prism. If it's easier for you to use a formula, use a formula. All you have to do is really look at the bases. So we're gonna find the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base times the height. So let's try another one. Say we only get the information. So let's say I have a rectangular prism. Let's go ahead and look at this. And I'm going to do this one just by using the information that they gave me and the formula. So I have 12 feet. I'm taking this from your assignment. That's 5 feet, and this is 3 feet, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw out my base because I need to see the base. And again, this is a rectangular prism, which means that any one of these sides could technically be the base because they're all the same shape. So I'm going to work with the one that it's sitting on, basically like the butt of the figure. So I have 12 here and I have 5 here. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that formula. So the surface area of a prism is going to equal 2 times the base height plus the base area plus the perimeter of the base times the height. So this area right here is 60. 12 times 5 is 60. The perimeter of the base is going to be 12 plus 5 plus 12 plus 5. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. 2 times 60 plus the perimeter is going to be 34. So we'll double check that. I have 12 plus 12 is 24. 5 plus 5 is 10. So I have 34 times, the height, again, is the distance between the two bases. So if I use this flat part as the base and then the top as the base, my distance between is going to be this right here, that 3 feet. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply that out. Again, you have your calculators. I don't have mine in front of me. That's okay. So I'm going to use the distributive property. 3 times 30 is 90, plus 12 is 102. So when I add these together, I should get 222. And again, it is area, so my label is feet squared. 222 feet squared, okay? That is working with prisms. So again, if you want to draw out a net and find the area of each face of the prism, you can. If it's easier for you to follow a formula, work with just the base of the figure, find the formula, okay? Our next one is going to be with cylinders. Cylinders are very, very similar to prisms, in just like what we said in the last video, because they have two bases that are exactly the same. The only difference now is that it is not a polyhedron. So a cylinder, you have two circles as your bases, right? Now if you were to draw the net, you know the top and the bottom of the cylinder are circles. So a net for a cylinder is a rectangle with two circles on top. So just like if I were to take this paper and I were to roll it up, it would look like a cylinder. You have a circle on top, circle on bottom. When I unravel it, it is a rectangle, okay? So this is the net of a cylinder. We know when we're working with surface area, when you're talking about area of a circle, you know the area of a circle is pi r squared. We just worked on that, okay? So now if we're working on the area of a cylinder, it's a little bit different. Just like how we had before, the 2 times the base area plus the perimeter of the base times the height. So now what we're essentially doing is we're doing 2 times the area of the circle, plus the perimeter of the circle. Perimeter of a circle is a little bit different. So now we're working with the circumference times the height, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll work this out. So if I have the surface area of a prism is 2 times the base area plus the perimeter of the base times the height. Now we're working with 2 times the area of a circle, so 2 pi r squared, plus, then we know the perimeter of a circle is actually called the circumference. That's 2 pi r. So now we're saying plus 2 pi r, that's our perimeter, times the height. So this is now our formula for the surface area of a cylinder, okay? So let's go ahead and try one. Let's say I have a cylinder and the radius is 2 inches, okay? All I really need to do, or need to know in order to find information for a cylinder is the radius, and I need to know the height. That's it, okay? That's it. So let's say this is 6 inches. Now, I'm gonna say, if I do a circle and I do the net here, okay, so I have 2 circles, I have 6 inches here, all right? I need to find that circumference, and in order to do that, I have to work with the radius. So I can do it doing the net, but I'm gonna do the same exact work, okay? So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go ahead and I'll plug in the information that we know. I'm gonna say 2 times pi r squared, so I have 2 squared plus 2 times pi times 2 times 6. Now, I'm gonna ask you to treat that pi like it's a variable. It's gonna be a lot easier for when you get to the end, okay? So let's go. This right here, 2 times 2 is 4. So 2 times 4 is gonna be 8 pi plus 2 times 6 is 12. We still have to multiply another 2. So I'm gonna get 24 pi. Now combine it all out. 8 plus 24, I get 32 pi. And when I do that, now I can multiply 32 times 3.14. And that'll give me my answer. So 32 times 3.14. And then again, my label, it's area, so it's always gonna be inches squared, okay? Or whatever your label is, squared. Let's try another one with the cylinder, because I know this is a longer process. So let's say, let's say I have a cylinder and I'm given something like this, where this is 10 centimeters, and they give me the diameter of 8 centimeters. Okay, remember with our formulas, for this, we only need the radius, okay? So we're gonna find the radius. If the diameter is 8 centimeters, that means our radius is going to be half of that, which is 4 centimeters. So we want to remember, you only need the radius. So if they give you the diameter, just take half of that. The diameter is 2 of the radius, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and write the formula again. Surface area for a cylinder is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Okay, now let's take the information that we know and we'll plug it in. So I'm going to say 2 pi. My radius is 4, so I'm going to say 4 squared. Now 4 squared is not 8. It's not 4 plus 4. It's 4 times 4. So when we get to that point, we're going to do 4 times 4. Plus 2 pi. The r is 4. The h is 10. Okay. Again, 4 squared, we said, is 4 times 4, so that's 16. 2 times 16 is 32 pi plus, these two are 40. 40 plus 2 is, I'm sorry, 40 times 2. Ooh, look what I did. 40 times 2 is 80 pi. Now I'm going to combine those, so I get 112 pi. That is not my answer, but I don't have a calculator in my hand, so you're going to do 112 times 3.14. That is going to give you your area. Okay, we still need to multiply out by pi. Use what your book tells you to do. If they tell you to use 3.14, awesome. If they tell you to use the pi button in your calculator, which I don't think they will, that's fine. But let's round it where they ask us to. So 112 times 3.14, and then your label, centimeters here, it is going to be centimeters squared, because that's the area, okay? Let me know if you have questions. We'll have a couple of calls this week, and I believe in you, I know you can do it. Your assignment today is going to be 10.3, numbers 3 through 22, all, okay? So we are moving along. We will go through a surface area of pyramids and cones next. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? Thanks.